All right, South Carolina narrowly escapes a new rock bottom in baseball. Plus, is Collin Murray-Boyles the most underrated player in this entire NBA draft? We talk about it next. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That was kind of cool, right? No. What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. We have a great show for you today. And thank you for everyone listening to Locked On Gamecocks every day. But thank you for everyone making Locked On Gamecocks your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we're a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get in, sign up for FanDuel today. Go to FanDuel.com. Sign up. When your first $5 bet wins, you will win $200 in free bonus bets. It's at FanDuel.com. Sign up today. All right, let's get into today's show. We have not changed what the name of the show is. We'll get into it either way. It is not the Monday show. It's a Tuesday night show. The South Carolina baseball game has just ended. It is the last non-conference game this team will play in the 2025 season. I'm assuming that will hold true. The only way that it'll change is if South Carolina somehow wins the SEC tournament. If we're just being honest with each other, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with us. We will all pull for it, but I'd be shocked if it happened. Unless South Carolina wins the entire SEC tournament in Hoover in a couple weeks, I don't see them getting to the postseason. Now, tonight's game, you get Wofford at home. And I said this earlier. I said you narrowly escape the new rock bottom for this program. Here's why I say that. And I'm not trying to say this to be Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to say this to be negative. And you guys have known I've been probably pretty negative with this team for most of the season. I will tell you, we're going to praise this team for a minute in the same way we do with the South Carolina basketball team, because they did something very similar to what the South Carolina basketball team has done throughout their season, even though it was one of the worst seasons they've had in recent memory. But they fought and fought and fought. That's what this team did tonight. You have a come from behind 6-5 win, scored 5 runs in the 8th inning, capped off by a Bo Hollis double to right center. Bases clearing double after our buddy Ethan Petrie struck out his first game back after missing 9 games. Salute to that kid. Really not a lot to gain, if we're being honest. Not a lot to gain to come back and play with a shoulder injury that he has, that sprained AC joint. If you're unfamiliar with that, I'm trying to think of what baseball players might have had that. I know for a fact the sprained AC joint is something a lot of football players, quarterbacks kind of get sometimes if you getting hit as you throw. Bryce Young had it after, I think it was the Arkansas game in 2022, caused him to miss a game. And then I think he'd missed like 2.5 weeks, something like that. It's a very difficult injury to come back from if you're throwing a lot. Obviously, Ethan Petrie playing first base and can also DH. Not something he was going to have to be too concerned about. But he also didn't have to come back, and he did. This team, as lame as it sounds, also did not have to come back tonight, and they did. You're down 5-1 in the 8th, and if I am being honest, I fully expect this team to roll over and die. I think a lot of us did. And the reason why, and the reason behind that, is because that's what we've seen them do a lot. This is a team that gave up 46 runs this weekend. That's after they gave up 39 the week before. Only twice in their last 16 games have they even scored over 5 runs in a game. Tonight, you're down 5-1 in the 8th inning against Wofford. You haven't lost to Wofford since 2015. I think you had won like 14-something straight games against them, or this was the 14th straight. But you hadn't lost to him since 2015. You're in grave danger of doing that. Your best player strikes out with the bases loaded. By all means, it did not feel like that was going to be a win. And I don't know if it's a much-needed win. I feel like that's kind of a dumb thing to say at this point of the season when you're 27-26, and now you have 3 games against number 1 LSU, and then you have a first-round trip to what do you call it, Hoover, where you're most likely, let me double-check on the safe side, but I believe you're most likely going to get matched up with whoever the 10 seed would be. So I think that would be Ole Miss. I could be wrong about that. I'll have to double-check. SEC tournament projections. Oh boy, that's basketball. That does not help. Anyway, but it's a team that could have rolled over and died, and they didn't. Now, here's the other part of it too. I'm glad they won tonight. I'm glad you got 27 wins, and I'm glad that you're 27-26 going into the last however many games of the season. But that 27th win, what that really means in the grand scheme of things, I mean, you're going to end up having a worse record than the 2022 year with Mark Kingston, right, when they went 27-28. You're going to have what will be the second worst record, the second least amount of wins in a season for South Carolina baseball since 1973. In 1980, was it 84, I believe? No. They had, in the last, 1996, sorry, they had 25 wins. So with the 27 they had a couple years ago with in 2022 with Mark Kingston, you're talking about you're tying. You're going to probably tie that record. I don't see them getting a win over LSU. I just don't. If you've kept up with LSU baseball, the way that Kate Anderson and Ianson have pitched, it's been lights out. So I guess what I'm saying is there's times in South Carolina athletics and there's times in all sports where you look at like it's darkest for the dawn, all that kind of stuff. That 2000 or 2001 season, I think it's 2000 season with South Carolina football, where Lou Holtz comes in, you go 0-11, right? And you sell out every game. You still had things in that season that you could hang your hat on and say, like, hey, this is really good. Like, yeah, we sucked. We were terrible. We didn't win a single game, but we sold out every game. Our fans showed up for every game. And then the next year you turn around, you have a great building block part of a program. You have a great season. I think that's the year you go to the Outback Bowl and you beat Ohio State. Ryan Brewer grows off. You have the Phil Petty. I think he's the quarterback at the time. And I'm just spitballing. This is all from memory. So if I'm wrong, please don't hold me to it. I remember that season, 2001, I think there was like a 37-36 or a 36-35 win over Bama at home on a Jefferson Pilot game. I think my old coach, Eric, what was his name? Oh my gosh, he was the coach at Wofford. For not Wofford, he was the coach at Hammond Athletics forever. Eric Kimry, in the fade route that he threw, I think it was against Mississippi State. I hope all of this is accurate. But like in those seasons, you had building blocks to get better. 2000 sucked. You came back in 2001, you had a better year. There's been years like even in the Mark Kingston era where you had the 27 wins in 2022. A lot of people wanted him gone. You come back in 2023, he wins 42 games. They get to a super regional. They get to host a regional. So maybe that's what's in store. I don't know. But you hope that this is a night as dark as for the dawn moment and not another near miss at rock bottom. Because I don't feel like this weekend's going to go well. And I don't feel like it's a situation where it's like 2000 in football where it's like, well, we still sold out every game. You've seen the ballpark. You've seen Founders. It's not sold out every game. And there's very little to be excited about on this. And that's just as honest as we can be. This whole thing sucks. And getting to 27 wins is great. It's great. I'm happy they did it. It'd be awesome if they found a way to scratch up to a 29-29 record. If that's possible, I don't know. Or maybe get to 30 if they win a game this weekend and two in Hoover. I don't know. But I do know that this whole situation does suck in terms of, like you have 4 wins in conference right now, or 5 wins in conference right now. You're 5-22. You're about to go play the number 1 team in the country. And the 5 wins in conference, I mean, there's only been one time, and this is dating back, guys, like there's only been one time since you've been in the SEC that you had under 10 wins in conference. And that was obviously, again, not that long ago, the 2019 year with Mark Kingston, when you went 8-22, one of the worst years they've ever had. They went 28-28 that year. But like this is worse. This is worse by a lot. and 5-22. And here's the other part too, guys. It's 5-22 in a year where you didn't have to play Texas, who might be the number 1 overall seed in the country, going into the postseason. So the whole thing has been very, very frustrating. And just because they didn't play Texas doesn't mean they didn't play a tough, a tough schedule. But like you start looking at it, guys, and you think about, okay, you played Oklahoma, who just got swept by Kentucky. That was your first series. You played Arkansas on the road. You played Tennessee. Obviously, that was tough. Mississippi State. Almost every team they played in the conference was a team that's going to make the postseason. That's because almost every team in this conference is going to make the postseason, except South Carolina. So this needs to not be a near miss at rock bottom. This needs to be a building block, a la 2000 football, to where you are moving forward and finding out things about yourself, things about this program, things about what you have to do differently moving forward, because this cannot be repeated. And the bar has become so low now. The last thing you can do, and I don't think you'll ever get this from South Carolina fans, but the last thing that you can get and receive from South Carolina fans, especially if you're Paul Murray and the distrust that's gone into his relationship, I think, with the fans and some of the stuff you hear around the program, the last thing you can do is get apathy. Because if that happens and you have an apathetic fan base, and it's not easy, man. This was like, you could argue this was the one sport that they cared not most about, because I feel like that'll always be football, but like was most prideful about, maybe, because for a long time you had an apathetic, attitude towards football, where it's like, yeah, we're good, but it's like, how good can we be? Like, what's the ceiling? For a long time that was the case. Like up until at least 2011, that was the case. But you look at what they've been able to do, and then what women's basketball's been able to do, what Lamont Paris was able to do in his first year, what softball is able to do with their first year in the head coach. It's not even the fact that you have situations where, well, you got to give Paul Murray some time, but like you have almost done this thing too. Like, it's not a disservice, but the uphill battle is something that your own expectations and like track record have made even more difficult for you for Paul Murray. Because we saw Lamont Paris come into a very deep SEC league and win 13 games, go 13-5 in his first year. We just saw softball in the first year of a new head coach be predicted to go 15th in the conference. If you're not familiar with softball, Vandy doesn't have a softball team. So 15th is dead last. They're an 8 seed nationally. We all know what Don Staley's done. We saw what Shane Beamer did in his first year. 2021, you go from being a 2-win team in 2020 at 2-8 to get into the Belk Bowl and beating North Carolina. I think you got 9 wins that year or something crazy, right? Like, I feel like none of these. So I'm very concerned that I'm at like a 50% clip of some of these stats and memories that I've just rattled off here. I hope they're accurate, because they are coming from a good place. I promise. It's not from a place of trying to be unprepared. It's more so just my memory. But my point is, very long-winded point, we have seen first-year coaches at this school in this athletic department win at a very, very fast and quick rate. That is not what happened in baseball this year, and it absolutely cannot be what happens next year. We're going to go to a quick break. Before we do, I want to give a quick shout-out one more time to our good friends at FanDuel. I know you guys have been keeping up with a lot of the NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, and the NBA playoffs especially are in full swing. Every night delivers highlight-worthy performances. There's been some major upsets. I think the Knicks are up 3-1. Jason Tatum just tore his Achilles. Then you had, I think tonight, Indiana clinched and beat the number 1 overall seed, the best team in the East this year, the Cleveland Cavs. They beat them, and I think 4-1 in that series. But there have been some incredible, incredible moments, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time than to get in on the action than right now with our friends at FanDuel. You guys have heard me talk about FanDuel before. You're going to hear me talk about them again, and with good reason. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Listen, which players are showing up in the biggest moments? How could tracking their trends help you build your next bet? I love a prop bet. Steph Curry, who's been injured for most of this, But you talk about Buddy Hield coming off the bench. His prop bet has been around 3 to 3.5 3-pointers per game. Saw it as low as 2.5 last week on FanDuel. Hammered that with a money line bet for Minnesota. Hit them both. Parlay one. How could you not want to get on this action? And also, when you have a $200 bonus bet in play, why would you not want to join in on that? If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you will get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. When we come back, we're going to talk more about the NBA. Not really the NBA, because no one likes the NBA. If we're being honest, I don't. We're going to talk about our good friend Collin Murray-Boyles and his impact and where he might land in the NBA draft. We had the draft lottery last night. We had the draft combine today. We're going to talk about all that and more with some inside information about where he could land. Locked On Gamecocks starts or continues right after this. All right, let's get back into the show here. And before we do, I want to give one more quick shout out to our friends at Monarch Money. You guys heard me talk about Monarch Money the other day, and it's a fantastic situation for you to join in as soon as possible and get your finances in the right direction. Have you ever checked your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch. Do you want to read the ad read for these people? I might bring on producer Allie. She's right over here in the wings. Do you want to read the ad read?
No, but I think you should follow suit.
I think we should all follow suit. This is great. This is basically live recording. This is great. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Listen, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code Locked On College for half off your first year. There we go. It's a team effort around here with Pepper and the missus, even though Pepper is snoozing. I appreciate you guys joining the show and watching. I know it's been a kind of a crazy start to the week. Today was an odd day with recruiting. We're going to get to some of that. And also on tomorrow's episode, we're going to talk about a ranking that I wish I came up with so badly, because it's what I've been waiting for in college sports. ESPN did their top 25 of every of new coming classes. So like they took junior college, they took the transfer portal and your high school recruiting classes all together. Every newcomer you have coming into your program, ranked the classes in the top 25. South Carolina finished right outside the top 10 at number 11. We're going to talk about all that and more on tomorrow's episode. Closing out today's episode, okay? Here's what I want to talk to you about. So we do this. We talk about some NBA like scouts and NBA podcasters and NBA analysts, all the above, about the upcoming NBA draft. Now, I could not watch a basketball combine and tell you, hey, that guy is better than this guy and should be a top whatever pick. I can tell you who's better, maybe. I don't know how accurate it would be. But I will tell you this, that the word around some of these draft, like lottery picks and organizations, is that Colin Murray-Boyles' stock has been rising. Now, Lamont Paris told us last week, 2 weeks ago, that he was holding on to another spot for Colin Murray-Boyles in case he decides to come back. I would love nothing more than that to happen. I thought there might be a chance because he was like a mid-round, like he's projected as like a 15, 16 guy when he declared. And, you know, like that's good, but it's like I think this kid could play his way into more money just like he already did this season. And the news you've seen over the past 24 hours. They did the lottery. It was 1,000% rigged. I don't care what anybody says. You're telling me that Dallas traded they traded Luka to LA, had a 1.8 chance of winning the lottery, and then hit it. Just to put that in perspective, this is now the third or fourth time a team has traded their star player and one of the biggest stars in the entire league to an LA franchise. That happened with Chris Paul when he was in Charlotte, or New Orleans, and went to it was OKC. When he went to the Clippers, they ended up getting the first overall pick. Anthony Davis, when he went to the Lakers and he was in New Orleans, they got the number one overall pick. That's how they got Zion. Then you talk about this year, Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one overall pick. Luka ends up getting traded to LA, and now, what do you know? Dallas, a top 5 market, gets the number one overall pick. Shocking. Just shocking. So that aside, all the projections that have now come out, especially for the first day of the combine, and we know who is picking where in the draft. I have seen Colin Murray-Boyles name 3 separate places in the first round. All 3 are in the top 11. I've seen him at 7, 9, 11. New Orleans, Portland, and Toronto. Everything that we're hearing is that the way he is being looked at is as the best defensive player and prospect in the draft this year. You got a lot of scorers in this draft. And in the NBA especially, there's a lot of scorers in that league. Every place he is slotted to potentially go, they don't have a lot of defense. Besides New Orleans. New Orleans has Herb Jones, and he's one of the best players in the entire league in defense. You have Portland, where he has been – Portland apparently kind of switched up their entire identity the second half of the season. It wasn't with Antifa. It was just – that's a bad Portland joke. Shouldn't have said that. But Portland changes their identity where they're going to be more defensively focused mindset going into their second half of the season this year. Well, Colin Murray-Boyles would not only be able to score, but he would be one of the best defensive players. And he can guard so many different positions because of his length and athleticism. The other place is Toronto. Toronto kind of makes the most sense. I want to say Toronto's at 9, and Portland's at 11, and New Orleans at 7 for the picks. Toronto at 9 makes probably the most sense because they don't have a defender. They have a lot of offense, and they're coming out of a rebuild, but him going there probably makes the most sense. Well, what that says also is you could have a top 10 pick. Colin Murray-Boyles could be a top 10 pick. It sucks that he'd be gone, but he could end up being a top 10 pick, which would be great for Lamont Paris and great for the program. Kid that you're able to recruit back home and then played his ass off flat out. And I was asked the other day about, is his offense lacking because of how good of a defender he is? Well, he scored in double digits in 16 of his last 17 games. He averaged 17 points in SEC play to close out the season. The guy had 10 double-doubles in the year. He was one of the players. He's a key player in that team this year, even though they were really bad. He never took a night off. And you talk about after the first 2 games, I think he had 6 points and 5 points against Mississippi State and Alabama in his first 2 SEC games of the year. After that, he was an absolute problem. You saw it happen in February and some of the nights where he just willed his team to a win. He is going to be a great prospect. But by all means, if I'm being objective here, it doesn't feel like he's a guy. We already expected it, but you still hold out hope a little bit. Maybe there's a chance he comes back. I doubt we see Colin Murray-Boyles back in Columbia unless to have his jersey retired, see Chloe Kitts, or, I don't know, go out to a nice dinner at Halls or something like that downtown. I don't know. But either way, that is all for today's episode. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope, like I said, really hope that any of the stats I was pulling and years and memories that I was pulling from the memory bank there were right. I can't believe I forgot Eric Kimmery's name. He was my boss at one point when I was D coordinator for the middle school team at Hammond for the Skyhawks back in 2008. So anyway, I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday night, or whether you're listening to this on Wednesday morning. We'll be back with another episode today talking about, like I said, ESPN's ranking of the top newcomer classes. And until then, go Cox.